Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this Meta Product Manager mock interview. Today, we are doing a product sense interview, and my name is Peter. I used to work as a product manager at Meta in community integrity and core metrics teams. Today, our candidate is Anand.
Thanks, Peter. I used to be also working at Facebook in a couple of different products. Used to work for Messenger and then Instagram. Thank you for this opportunity. Looking forward.
Thanks, Anand. So, Anand, if you are ready to get started, the product sense question that I would like to ask you is, how would you design an antique marketplace for Facebook?
Awesome. Thank you, Peter, for that question. I would like to start with some initial clarification questions to understand a little bit more context here. This is antique. When if you say antiques, in my mind, it's like the old paintings, the old trinkets, or the old items that people buy, either as collection items or for a kind of like investment, like paintings and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we already have a Facebook marketplace in place. Are we looking to build an additional product layer for antiques specifically? And why do you think we are? Why do you, can I ask you why is Facebook thinking about this?
So the solution is definitely open to marketplace or any other types of solutions. Please feel free to explore the different solutions that you think that's worthwhile to build. And why Facebook is building this is something that Facebook would like to build a product that aligns with its mission.
Hmm.
Yeah, so you can think in
Great.
that direction and see what product you think should be built. Anand asked a set of good clarifying questions about the exact meaning of the question terms and the reasons why the product needs to be built. These are good questions to explore with the interviewer. Though Meta's product sense interview is unique in the sense that you probably won't get many clues from the interviewer.
Okay, so yeah, let's start with the why part of it, right? Which this makes sense for Facebook to build. First, it's aligned to the mission, which is all about bringing people together and building communities. And then the second part of this is like, what do people do today in the antiques marketplace, right? That's what I'll think about first. So strategically, how this works and who are the key players here. So if I look at it, on one side you have the online companies like eBay and auction houses, online auction houses, and the new age companies like NFT companies like OpenSeas that are helping trade these kind of buy and trade these kind of antiques, and then the old ways in which people go to these auction houses or museums or even antique shops to buy it offline. So that's kind of like how this is currently. It's a definitely a massive market there. So from a product goal standpoint, so the next step I want to understand is the product mission and the business objective. I want to define the product mission for this product. Again, want to start at very broad statement, where in which Facebook is building this antiques marketplace that helps build the community between antiques buyers and antique sellers. So let's keep it broad. We can, Peter, we can come back and redefine this as we go further. And then let's keep understand what the business objective is. As you were saying, the key business objective at the company level is to add more user value, provide more value to our users, provide more engagement to them. And also from a product standpoint, I think we are building this product from scratch. So the business objective at this point could be, a level of adoption that results in meaningful engagement. We call it product market fit because it's an early stage product.
It's very important to set up the product's rationale within the company's business context, giving you a foundation on which to build the rest of your answer. Anand did this really well, explaining how building this product could benefit Facebook's business by increasing user value and engagement.
Let's go further into understanding who the users are, and then we'll go into the problem space and the needs for these users. So if I look at the user segments here at the market at the ecosystem level, um, I see like there are four key players here. One is the antiques buyers. There is the antique sellers. Um, the one of the key parts about antiques that differentiates itself from our current marketplace is antiques have this problem of it's as a perceived value, and also on top of that, authenticity is at the key of it, at the key part of it, right? Since the price and everything is perceived, people want to buy authentic, and it's unique as such. People want to buy authentic goods. There's a lot of fraud and scam that happens in this market. For me, authenticity is a key part of it. So if I look at that aspect, there are people called appraisers and experts, subject matter experts, who come in and get involved in these buying these or during the process of buying and selling. So I'll call them as the third part of the ecosystem, the appraisers and experts. The fourth one could be other enablers. This could be auction houses or museums, the place where it sells, or it could be the escrow companies, which will hold the money because a lot of money gets transferred. Unlike a second-hand marketplace, antiques marketplace involves a lot more money. So let me call all these enablers, escrows, and also in logistic companies. There's companies that are very specifically involved in logistics and transfer and shipment of these antiques products, which requires an extra amount of safety and security and care. So let's call them enablers. So those are the four types of market segments I look at. Does it make sense?
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah. So now looking at this, right, I wanted to understand at the core of it, it's the antiques buyers and sellers. And of course, there are enablers and other players there, but let's focus on the core segments, the buyers and sellers. What I want to do is actually sub segment them a little bit so we have a little bit more narrow focus as we are building our MVP here. So on the buyer side, when I look at it, I see like three kinds of people. One, maybe the antique collectors, people who do it on an ongoing basis. They have specific areas they collect, like from paintings to stamps to cars. So there are specific people who are really passionate about collecting. So that's one kind of people. The second type of buyers, I call them decorators and architects. They buy these products just to decorate their houses, or they're decorating or refurbishing houses. They want these antiques, so they come and buy. The third type of buyers, I call them investors. If you look at companies like OpenSea and all that, what they're facilitating here is they're allowing these investors to buy these antiques because they will hold it on just for investment purposes to sell it up in a higher price later because of the uniqueness of these antiques. So those are the three different buckets of people. Obviously, investors are looking at the higher end antiques compared to something like lower end trinkets. They're not looking at that. Um, does that make sense?
Yes, sounds good. So if you had
Hmm.
to pick one
Hmm.
user segment to focus on building a product for,
Hmm.
which one would you pick and why?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, right. I would actually focus on the collectors because collectors are the people who are going to ongoingly come to the site. They're going to search for the collections that they're building. So these users are on there regularly, and today there is not a really good place for them in one place to go for. Maybe eBay is starting to provide an option there, but the market space is big for us to go behind this, and these are end users. Instead of focusing on investors, we can focus on the collectors who has a very high frequency of using our product.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Really quick note on the seller side, breaking down the sellers, right? Oh, on one side, you have the businesses like pawn shops and auction houses that also sell, but there's also like independent sellers who inherited some kind of antiques that they want to sell it out. Those could also be some categorizations. On the seller side, if I were to pick one, I would go for the independent sellers because they don't have a real way to put their product out there, like our current marketplace where independent users want to sell their own products. That'll be a good fit there more than going for businesses at this point. So that's kind of like how I pick on the either side.
Anand did a good job of outlining the key user personas and how the product's user problem can be unique from the already existing Facebook marketplace. He was able to articulate the user personas specific to this problem, which makes his answer stand out compared to more generic user segmentation methods such as demographics. Anand further segmented the buyers into different types demonstrating his depth of thinking when it comes to user segmentation. He is an experienced candidate, so he could do this with ease. But this is an area to be careful about because segmenting too many times can potentially arrive at a narrow or niche product.
So let's look at the like now that we have the subsegment, the collector side, and then the independent sellers, massive market there. So if I look at the next steps, I wanted to actually list down the needs, and then want to figure out which of these needs we can double down on to differentiate. Is that okay?
Yep, sounds good.
So if I look at the psychological needs, right, there are a couple of psychological needs I could think about on the buyer side, and this could be applied on both buyer and seller side. Is one is lot of these are high value items being traded, unlike our current marketplace where it's all second-hand products to most level. So one is they might need a very high level of privacy and safety because otherwise they're putting themselves in high risk. Imagine you're a seller, you're putting up painting which is worth $1 million in a normal marketplace scenario. People can reach out to you, know your profile. That could be a bit of a problem for anyone. So that privacy and security is very important. The other one is showcasing and flaunting, right? Somebody buys a second-hand Lamborghini, it's up to them, but they wanted to really showcase it to their friends and friends of friends in a very nice way because they are collectors and they want to showcase it because they possess something. So those are some psychological needs to think about. So that's kind of the needs on the buyer side. Most of that is replicable on the seller side as well, right? Sellers also want the best price. They want, when they showcase the product, they want to make sure that they're showcasing the authenticity so buyers can come. They want to sell it at the fastest way, get higher price, and then also have a secure transaction, ship and have a safe and secure shipping, and also the psychological needs on privacy and the social aspect of flaunting also can be applicable on that side. Those are the broad needs on buyers and seller side. I want to focus on the buyer side to start thinking about it. Obviously, in our MVP, we can cover on both the sides. Is that okay with you?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so if I when I'm looking at all these needs, I wanted to make sure I have a criteria to decide which of these needs I'm going to pick up for differentiation for our MVP. So the way I think about that criteria is like one on the need side, how deep is the need, how frequent is the need. On the market side, right, I wanted to see there are so many other products out there in the market. How do we differentiate in the market? If can this need help us differentiate? And then last but not the least, like does it play to our strength as a company, right? If I take all these three criterias and look at all these needs, I think the need that we could really strongly differentiate on to start with is authenticity. I think there is that is a key need for a product like antiques marketplace compared to other things. Is that okay if we can go with that as the key need for differentiator? Of course, we can use other needs while building the MVP.
Anand demonstrated strong user empathy when it comes to articulating user needs, which is extremely important for a product manager. He was able to demonstrate breadth and depth by speaking to different user needs and their psychological aspects as well. When it comes to prioritizing needs, Anand showed a structured approach taking into account different criteria in order to make a sound decision. Sounds good. So, what product do you think you will build?
Yeah, no, awesome. Let's look at the couple of different solutions that we can come out for these authenticity aspect, different ways we can solve for it, and then we'll decide a solution, and then we'll build the product on that. So one idea that I could come out with, one solution idea that I come out with, since we can form communities and networks, is using the network of appraisers signed up to this feature and use them as a way to, whenever sellers want to upload products, they can connect with the network of appraisers that Facebook has approved, and they can get a certificate from them, and the appraisers can also send a parallel certificate to Facebook where they can go to their houses of the sellers and evaluate the product and give them a certificate. So we can use that in our product showcase. So that could be one idea for authenticity. The second idea I could think about is why not crowdsource the authenticity aspect using visuals and data collected from sellers. So sellers can be asked to provide a list of answers to FAQs and also provide detailed images. And then we can crowdsource that. We can ask a lot of other of our marketplace users to rank it based on the answers and the images. So we can, like how Quora does it, how Wikipedia does it, we can get experts from the crowd to look at the images and give ratings on that. That could be a simpler aspect, but it may not be applicable to very, very high end value items. The third idea could be something around AI based image processing, right? There's a lot of data available on antiques and information in internet. Maybe AI and image processing can identify whether this is product with all the listed details. Is This could be a futuristic idea, kind of like little out of the box, that can take all the information in the internet and identify whether something that is listed is authentic or not. Again, this is not foolproof. So if I look at all these three ideas and to choose one as our differentiator, I look at the impact and effort that it takes to build any of these solutions. In terms of impact, like how good is the quality of it, how good is the value of it from buyer side and seller side, and the effort it takes to build it. Building a community of appraisers is not that hard. Again, it's a medium effort. At the same time, the impact is going to be very high. So we can go with that compared to the other one, which is like the crowdsource based idea. Impact is going to be medium because it sometimes it can work out and we may not work out. And then the effort is low. And then the third one, I believe the AI technology is still not there. Of course, we can start thinking about this for the future. So, from a maturity in technology maturity standpoint, I would just not qualify that for now. So, let's go with the network of appraisers that we can use to authenticate. So, let's go into. I'm going to explain the MVP of this product. Is that okay with you?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, so from an MVP standpoint, right? Again, on the buyer side and seller side, the way I would choose is I would actually not build a separate marketplace. I would actually integrate this with our existing marketplace because people are already there trying to buy, sell things. It makes it seamless to be present there. Of course, there's a lot of differences in different aspects that we need to think about for the MVP. So the first thing is from users are coming in, they're able to be searching products and all that. As a buyer, they can be able to search different kind of antiques that'll be listed out there. But once that they're able to find the antiques, in our situation, our differentiator is that authenticity. So they can click on that image or details, and then there'll be a certificate that'll be associated with it by the partner that we have worked with, the appraising partner. So they can see whether this is authentic or not based on that. And then unlike our normal marketplace, what I would do is introduce some kind of a pricing and bidding algorithm here, because you want to give the best price. There's only perceived price, so the users can actually bid for certain price. It could be a minimal price the buyer can ask, sorry, the seller can ask. So that could be a process there. The later part of the process, what I think about MVP is I wanted to start on the discovery, engagement, and the pricing mechanism, both on the buyer side and seller side. And then the later part of the MVP, which is the actual transaction, the logistics, and everything. I don't think Facebook should do it in the MVP stage. We could hire, like, third party companies to work with us for all those purposes, escrows and transactions. So that's how I'll think about the MVP from a user standpoint. They can come and search, they can bid for it, and from a seller standpoint, they can upload these things along with the certificates. And also, if they want to anonymize their profile, they could anonymize it because of the privacy reasons. This is not location based, unlike the other marketplaces, because antiques are looked often by collectors. Collectors don't mind, paying extra for shipping and all that all over a certain country. It could be country limited, but it doesn't have to be. At least for the MVP, we don't have to limit it within how the other marketplaces within a certain geography, like 5 miles, 10 miles radius. So I'm going to pause there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds great, Anand. Anand explored different creative ideas that could solve the problem and was able to describe the user journey at high level. This is necessary in the product sense interview to show both product design skills and imaginative power. He further used a concise framework to evaluate and pick the idea that will make the most impact while also being feasible. This is super important as well to show a structured approach to decision making. He was able to describe in detail the user experience in the MVP, focusing on building the most impactful features that will deliver the core user values of the product. So, what do you see as some of the potential challenges or risks that your product may have?
Yeah, awesome. So a couple of quick things, right? Like for me, the first thing, the risk that I think, as I said earlier, is there is going to be some level of privacy issues that could come along with it, right? Again, although we try to anonymize the profiles, there once we let people engage with the other people, they might be inadvertently giving more information about them. These are high value antiques, so that they are putting themselves in a safety issue. So we can think about it. Again, what we can do is let anybody who is coming into this particular antiques marketplace trying to find or sell or buy things, they have to be their ID should be verified or something like that. So we know exactly who's coming in, who's going in, because these are very high value items. That could be the first thing. The second risk I'm seeing here is the appraiser side. Like although we form a network of appraisers, we really don't we're not experts in the space yet. So bringing that network of appraisers will be very important. Otherwise, the risk is like we will have more, some fake items coming in that get certified, and then that becomes a problem for us. So making sure that the community that we are building on appraisers, that people can use the network, is very, very it's vetted and very established. The third risk I feel is like sellers. We're asking the sellers to pay for these appraisers. That might be a risk, because maybe if it's a very high value painting and stuff, they could pay for it. They're making millions. But imagine an item which is getting sold for $200, $300, or maybe $1,000. For those items, asking them to pay a certain amount to the appraisers to get the certificate could be of less value to them. That might not break even for them. So we need to figure out a different model for the low end antiques. That's kind of the risks and mitigations I'm thinking about.
Anand demonstrated that he could also think outside the box, using his breadth of product experiences to identify potential risks and challenges, covering a broad range of product areas and angles, and providing more creative thinking for potential mitigation as well. It's very important to be able to identify risks in your own product design and be able to follow up with a brief description of what mitigation can be. Great. Thank you, Anand. That's the end of this Meta Product Sense interview. Congratulations, you did an excellent job. How did you find it?
It was really good. Like, thank you for taking me through this exercise and helping me answer some of these things with your prompts.
Anand did very well in defining the problem space and set up a good foundation for product rationale that carried through into his solution and product design. He demonstrated a strong product methodology and structured product decision making, taking into account multiple factors to ensure that we are building a product focused on impact and value and making intentional design choices. I hope this mock interview has been helpful to everyone watching. Both Anand and I are coaches on IGotAnOffer. And if you need help for an upcoming interview, you can find us there. Thanks and good luck.